Welcome to this presentation on the fashion degree course at UCA Epsom. My name is Esma Mbono. I'm the interim program director of the BA Fashion at Epsom and the Masters at UCA Rochester campus. So I'm going to provide an overview of the course that you're interested in and tell you more about it. So if you bear with me, I'll share my screen.
Excellent. Thank you, Esma. Hi, everyone. Greetings from the UK. As some of you may be aware, my name is Dagina Wetherill, and I'm the Director of Recruitment at Global University Systems UK Division. And today, as Esma mentioned, we're extremely excited to talk about one of our premium partner universities, University for the Creative Arts. And we'll be talking about one of the exciting subjects, fashion and textiles. So whilst Esma is sharing her screen, just a few housekeeping rules. You're all on mute. If you do have any questions, feel free to share them at Q&A section and we'll take it from there later. The webinar recording will be sent to you as well. If you haven't started working with Global University Systems to recruit great students for University for the Creative Arts, feel free to reach out to UCA partners at gus.global, or if you're a student having any extra questions or would like to reach out to advisor, feel free to reach out to UCA questions at gus.global, and we'll take it from there. Other than that, sit back, enjoy, and I hope you find this webinar useful. So over to you, Esma.
Thank you, Dagina. Okay, yes, again, welcome. Welcome to the BA Fashion Epsom. Oops, sorry, I'm having problems with this. Why is that? Sorry, guys, let me just see why I'm not able to move along. Okay, if you bear with me, I'm going to do it this way. Something's happened with my screen. Right, share.
Perfect, we can see it.
You can see it now? Okay,
yep.
So let me just play from the start, see if I can. Okay, now it's working. Right, welcome again, guys. Sorry about the hitch. So I just want to give you some context in terms of our fashion course at UCA Epsom. So the context obviously is the global ranking. So I'm going to read this text here. So UCA is a Sunday Times Modern University of the year 2019, and also the #1 specialist creative university in all the 3 major university league tables, and it ranks 13th of all UK universities in the main Guardian League table 2020. Also bear in mind that the university, UCA, we're very proud to hold the TEF Gold Award for teaching quality from the Office for Students. Okay, we're very proud of that, so gold. So let's talk more about the course. So in terms of where we're based, UCA Epsom, so we're very close to London. The train journey literally is about 20 minutes that will take you to the heart of London. So what does that mean? It means that the campus of Epsom and the sort of immediate surrounding area in terms of accommodation, halls of residence, are not London price rates. However, in terms of immersing yourself in the museums and galleries and the nightlife and all that London has to offer is a stone throw away, so completely accessible. So our location actually compared to our other campuses, which this map shows, we have a campus in Farnham, a campus at Rochester and Canterbury. So the one in Epsom is strategically well placed in terms of immersing yourself in London's nightlife and culture. So the School of Fashion and Textiles has quite a few courses, but as I said, I'm specifically talking about the BA course at Epsom with this webinar. So our graduates, where do they go? So they go everywhere, basically. So I want to pick some of the listings from this list, just to give you an idea. So Ellie Grace Frost, design assistant at Louis Vuitton. Antonia Lloyd, designer at Tim Saw. Katie Barrett, menswear designer at Fat Face. Nick Paget, senior designer at Top Man. Courtney McWilliams, senior menswear designer at Givenchy. Emma Goley, senior designer at Julian McDonald. I would like to, so basically this list, as you can see, sort of there's high street, there's designer, there's different countries, so across the board actually. So in terms of getting our students who become graduates jobs, we do very well, as this slide demonstrates. So we completely advocate for creativity and innovation. So it's been a pleasure to see the high standards of this year's cohort. The quality of work builds upon the strength of last year, mixing a high degree of creativity and strong market awareness. All collections demonstrate originality, individuality, high technical merit. Portfolios are of a high quality with the illustration of work particularly excelling. So this is a comment from an external examiner a few years back, really positioning our course amongst high contenders in terms of degree courses in the UK, basically. So in terms of our extensive fashion studios, we've got some images to sort of illustrate, but I'm going to read the bullet points. So we have large design and pattern studios, industrial sewing machine workrooms, laser cutting facilities, photographic facilities and studios, photo equipment hire, Mac computer suites. We have our own art shop, materials library and fabric store, all on campus. So creativity and innovation. So design briefs. So our design briefs, at the heart of all our briefs are creativity, which we want you to be creative and we want you to innovate. Contemporary design practices. This is something where you were taught in terms of making sure that you are aware of what's going on around you, as well as the historical underpinnings of fashion. It's very important to have an understanding of what is current as well, what is current and what will be, because obviously fashion designers are always thinking ahead. Developing your visual communication skills. So fashion design, the drawing, the illustration, CAD, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, and more recently moving into sort of virtual design, 3D design are very important. And in terms of how you communicate your ideas, a lot of fashion design is about communication, from the initial sketch to design development to your portfolio. All of that is communicating your aesthetic and your style and your response to any given project. Shaping technical ingenuity, so pattern cutting and construction. You're taught the very basics from the first year, irrespective of your prior knowledge, because as we all know, in terms of acquiring knowledge, it's all to do with repetition, repetition, repetition. You can never put in as if enough times. So everyone's taught from the very basic level, and yes, you get the opportunity to make your designs from how to construct the pattern two-dimensionally using the flat pattern cutting technique, and also how to sort of model and drape on the stand as well. So working more three-dimensionally. And so yes, both practices we have and we encourage at UCA, and often these two meet, 2D and 3D. So it's really important, the underpinning of design history and theory in terms of what you do. It's very important to understand, the context of what you are doing, and anything that predates it or anything that relates to it. To have that context is very important, because as creatives, we don't work in a bubble. So whether you're an art, wanting to study architecture or fashion design or interior design, or all of these things are, have a history and have, relate to each other in some context as well. And it's very important to speak the wider language of art and design. So in terms of professional developments, we have a range of industry projects and competitions. This is a list of competitions and industry projects we've had previously. So Sophie Hallat Design Challenge, Top Shop, when it was around, no longer, Fashion Awareness Direct, Warehouse, Hardy Amy's, Ralph Lauren, Diversity Now, Tim Saul. So the way the course is structured, in the second year, in the second term, you will have the opportunity to go on work placement. So here's a list, it's not completely comprehensive, but a list of where our students have gone to do their work placements. There's a minimum of 6 weeks that are given to the work placement, but often students are able to carry on over the summer, so they can extend the 6 weeks quite significantly. So the likes of Marcus Luther, Marc Jacobs, Erdem, Alexander, Victor and Rolf, Tom Ford, Diane von Furstenberg, Burberry, Alexander McQueen, WGSN, Adidas, Nike. So as I said, it's across the board. You've got sportswear, you've got high-end designer labels, you've got high street. So it's across the board, because obviously when you enter the fashion industry, there are many levels, and we'd like to think we cater for that reality. So a bit about the course structure, which I've alluded to a little bit. So there are 3 years. So year one, basically, you have 4 units that run concurrently. You have the introduction to design that gives you the whole overview. So from you having an idea, how to research it so you can get the most out of the idea, how to experiment and explore, design development, prototyping, sampling, designing, fabric research, color research, and how you put it all together, really, in terms of your design developments, and how to edit, how to get the best out of your design developments to arrive at the collection. And this is a process, and we show you how to embark on this process successfully. We have visual communication as a unit that basically is concerned about how you go about presenting your portfolio, your drawings in terms of illustration, your CAD work, computer aided design, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, all the tools that you need to, as I said before, to communicate your ideas effectively. Then there's the creative cutting and construction. So as I said earlier on, this is to do with pattern cutting, but also how to make. Construction actually is a real sort of methodology. There's a process. There's a sort of A, B, C, Z to it all in terms of how you go about it, the right order. If you construct something in the incorrect order, you end up with something that is not successful. If you try and construct something, a garment, in the right order, you will end up with an impeccably made garment. And then, as I said before, the fashion history and theory is ongoing throughout year 1, year 2, and year 3. Year 2, we have 4 units. We have innovative design practice. This is a tailoring project. We have creative drape practice, which, as the title says, this is a drape project. So tailoring and drape are very important aspects of design and feature quite heavily in most collections, obviously not sportswear, streetwear, but in most collections, you will see some evidence of drape and tailoring. So you're taught this. And as I said, from the very beginning to the end, the tailoring, a lot of this is like 2D flat pattern cutting. And the drape project often is basically constructed on a mannequin. Let's do volume. The professional practice is your work placement. As I said, minimum of 6 weeks, with the possibility of extending that over the summer. And the theories of culture and identity and communication, this is your professional practice. This is your contextual studies unit. So it gives you, underpins everything that you're learning, art and design, and wider sort of theorists and understandings that will benefit your practice. Year 3, we have 2 options actually. We have one option that is to do pre-collection and the catwalk show. And we have another option, which is basically industry-focused design, brand design, innovation, and your portfolio. Obviously, both options, you will create a portfolio, but option 1 is more focused on the catwalk show. The professional portfolio, this is an opportunity to hone all that you've learned in a portfolio that will sell you as a creative. And also in this unit, you'll have the opportunity to tweak your CV, work on your interview style, all the things that are essential to get you a job basically when you graduate. And the dissertation is a continuation of the contextual studies, whereby you have the opportunity to write at length about a subject of interest. Often it relates back to your final major project, not always, but it's an opportunity to explore further something that you are interested in. So just sort of going over what I have said. So in terms of option 1, the main focus is, I'm going to read the list here: concept development, design innovation, material development, catwalk collection development, creative cutting, and manufacture. Here's some images that you can see from option 1, okay. Option 2, as an overview: trend insights, branding, market analysis, industry collaboration, brand collection development, sample product development. So as you can see, they're quite different. So we do create award winners. There's a national show called Graduate Fashion Week, which actually started a couple of days ago. So it's sort of happening as we speak. And it's an opportunity for the universities nationwide to come and show their best practice. A select amount of students will represent the university and show catwalk show. Industry are invited. There are stands. All the universities have a stand where industry are able to look at portfolios, offer students work. People can network. There are guest speakers. There's lots of activity actually that happen. And if I'm correct, Graduate Fashion Week is celebrating 30 years this year. So it's been going on for a while, and it's a staple in terms of the graduates' experience, a staple event. So I'm going to show you some examples of students, graduates who are now fully fledged designers working in the industry. So Kiwi Yan here, she won the GFW Women's Wear Award and also the David Band Textile Award. And she's used a really interesting technique here of lump troi. What's it called? This, let me just try to, the trick of the eye is the translation. So very sort of clever print technique here. Here's another graduate. Sorry, this, let me just move this banner. Ooh, let me just move this. So this student here, she won the Trailblazer Award actually a few years back. Evelyn Babin. Ooh, what's happened here? Sorry, this is, thing is, you're sharing your screen, so what's, Sorry, something's happened again. New share. Let's see if I should do this. Share. Okay, I solved that. Alexander Jones, he has to troubleshoot that. Alexander Jones, he won the BFC, British Fashion Council Education Foundation Scholarship. And he's now an independent designer, actually. Okay, I just need to move this. So let's try and not upset this presentation. Okay, here's an ex-student who is a senior designer at Kenzone. And this is a little excerpt of talking about their experience at UCA. So it reads, my experience at UCA Epsom in terms of shaping my career path was certainly down to the excellent support and communication that I had with my tutors. I had a good relationship with the course tutors and always felt inspired by the expertise of industry visitors on the course. I really enjoyed the course and think it was a very good mix of practical and creative projects that included an essential business focus. So just to give you an idea of Siri Johansson's trajectory on graduating from the fashion course at Epsom, fashion degree course at Epsom. So soon after, they did a master's in fashion at the Royal College of Art, then went on to work for Burberry, then Pringle, and currently at Kenzo. Right, I'm not too sure why that is happening, but I'll do the new share. Okay. Oh, sorry, guys, I'm not too.
Maybe if you try to sort of exit the full view and then try sharing again, perhaps.
Okay, let's see. All right, let's do that. Stop share. Okay. And I'll try and share again.
Excellent.
Okay, well done. Thank you for that, Dagina. You've done this.
All right.
Okay, so portfolio and interview. So there's a little film here. Let's see if it should be film, or maybe it's not. Anyway, about portfolios. So, and the screen has disappeared. Portfolios, we recommend, let's see. So the UCA applicant guide includes details of what to expect at interviews. So guidelines for interviews and portfolios are included. We prefer to see a portfolio of, I don't know, A2, A1 size at interview. The portfolio should show visual evidence of relevant skills for studying fashion design. Your portfolio should be logically organized and demonstrate your ability to develop a project or an idea. And obviously electronic portfolios are also a thing as well. So yes. But it's very important to edit, and it's very important to show the breadth of your skills. Obviously, fashion is a creative discipline, and creativity can be seen in lots of different things: your application of color, how you engage in shape, your knowledge of fabric, you know, how well you draw, how well you observe. So all of these things are very, very important to sort of show your breadth of what you can do at this stage. So it's a little film here. Let's see if this is gonna work. No, not okay, it hasn't done. Let's see.
Hello, my name's Chris and I'm here today to talk to you about portfolio advice. If you're interested in studying art and design or media after school or college, then there's lots of things to take into consideration. The best way to start is to find out what type of portfolio you need. If you check on all UCA's course web pages, it will give you lots of information about what portfolios are required for particular courses here at UCA. So when prepping your portfolio, it needs to be about you, your individual. It needs to convey who you are. Most portfolios are 16 to 20 pieces of work, particularly if they're in a traditional black portfolio. Most students will have quite a lot of work when they start and editing down to those 60 and 20 pieces of work is absolutely essential. Look at what you definitely want to put into a portfolio, the things that you're not quite sure about, and the things that you definitely don't want to put in. You might be a painter, you might be a sculptor, you may make things out of textile. That needs to really come across in your portfolio. There are lots and lots of different strategies that you could use. Try and think about it as a piece of music. So you might have impact pieces at the beginning and an impact piece at the end, but in the middle it can be quite soft and quite quiet. So if you're someone who wants to put together a portfolio that has lots of different elements to it, then that can also be helped in the way that you design that portfolio. You need to really consider about how you put yourself into the portfolio. Read through all your project briefs, get yourself really, really well prepared for when you come to interview. You want to make sure that you are concise and quite focused. Taking some time to really think about its contents is the most useful part. You want to try and think about sketchbooks and journals. Sketchbooks are really personal, they're often really quite raw. Do you want to do small scale, large scale, a mixture of all those things? So try to always show that you have a huge amount of variety in that portfolio. UCA offer a variety of different workshops and opportunities to build on that expertise. So you can explore a variety of different materials, different approaches and different set of technologies to enhance and really build upon your portfolio. So just keep thinking about how you might put ideas together. If you're a media student, then perhaps the natural thing is screen-based. Think about putting things on blogs. If you're a painter, then you'll probably have quite a lot of other things which might be three-dimensional. Include your drawing as well, and we want to see examples of that. You really need to have a kind of consistent theme. You can keep it consistent and concise and quite fluid at the same time. Don't create any type of confusion within the portfolio. Keep it laid out really simply. It's always great to see outcomes, but the journey that the students go on is always the best bit to see. So how you document, how you develop those ideas are the elements that I'm interested in seeing. When you come to interview, be prepared that you might need to talk about your work as well. So do a little bit of research, go back through your project briefs. Don't forget you have your sketchbooks to refer back to. So when you actually come to interview, you really are quite aware of the things that are in your portfolio.
Okay, so let's move on. So, okay, I've come to the end of, so we're on Instagram. So yes, please follow us on Instagram, UCA Epsom Fashion. We can do some more followers, as you can see. Okay, that's not necessarily here. So yes, thank you very much for listening. This is another external examiner's report, excerpts from a report. And this year there was a greater consideration to structure and complex silhouettes, which overall were highly impressive. The collections this year represented the increased ambition, yet clearly linked to real world design, context and markets. The excellence in quality is evidenced through recent GFW award success. So yes, thank you for listening. So I'm opening up the floor to questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Azima. Really inspiring stories and really useful information. I learned a lot myself, to be honest, so that's really great. Thank you once again. So I can see we do have a couple of questions here. So there is a question in regards with learning digital skills like Photoshop, illustration, etc. So would those be also present within the program structure?
Absolutely, from year one. They're essential. You know, they're essential skills. So you start off with the basics in year one. I mean, some people have prior existing knowledge because they might have done a photography course, but we don't, you know, we don't assume anything. So everyone sort of starts from the basics, and from year one to year three, you build upon that. But absolutely, because with technical drawings, we want them. We want you to use Illustrator. Obviously, start off hand drawn, so you can sort of perfect the skill of symmetry. But at the end of the day, Illustrator is the software that is used, and Photoshop, absolutely. So from day one, as soon as you start visual communication, it's something that we have on offer.
Excellent, thank you. In regards with portfolio, what are the common reasons in terms of portfolio being rejected?
Scope not being shown, your abilities, you know, in terms of your scope and your potential. I mean, you know, you join a degree course to unleash your potential, but from your portfolio, we can see whether you're engaged, or, you know, your enthusiasm, you know, whether you've got an eye for color, an eye for shape, your interest basically in the subject is something we can sort of discern from a portfolio.
Great, thank you. I can see there are quite a few questions about portfolio itself. So there is a question whether the portfolio can be a short overview of 2 to 4 pages.
No, that's not sufficient, really. I think, you know, I mean, if you take the advice from the video, I think the ballpoint figure was about sort of 10 to 16, you know, but 4 is too minimal. Can't really, you know, I don't know what size, or whether it's going to be collaged or a layout, you know, on the page. But I think 4 doesn't really sort of tell you much about the applicants.
Right, excellent, thank you. So I guess applicants need to aim at least 10 to 14 pages, as you mentioned. So great to know, thank you. So there is a question whether there is a requirement to provide portfolio. So if students applying directly for bachelor's degree first year, there is a requirement to provide portfolio, but obviously if there is a lack of portfolio or any issues perhaps with portfolio, there is also foundation program available. And also for students, international students who might not have met English requirements, there is international foundation available, which obviously offers an option to progress to bachelor's degree upon successful completion. And there is a question I can see in regards with English requirement for foundation. So currently it's 5 overall, and students do need to have 4.5 minimum in each section for international foundation. It does have to be UKVI, IELTS, or Pearson to be accepted by the UKVI for visa purposes. Right, so let's move on. Okay, so there is a question in regards with work profiles that students can apply for after the program. So if you can elaborate a little bit, please. I know you gave some examples, but maybe sort of more destinations for students to apply for jobs, and also what sort of positions they have straight after graduation, and maybe even during their studies as well.
Well, in terms of positions, it will always be entry level. You know, the fashion industry, any company, you know, there's different levels, and, you know, one has to climb the ladder and build upon their knowledge whilst you're in industry. From year 2, I think you start understanding the type of designer that you are. And in year 3, you get the opportunity to really explore that. So that will relate to the jobs you'll want to go for when you graduate. So for example, you know, if you are leaning towards, you know, high-end fashion, you know, and you're interested in maybe, you know, finding a job abroad, then that's obviously what you're going to be focusing on. But the reality also in terms of when you graduate is sometimes it's not as clear cut as that. You know, you might want to go and work, for example, for Diane von Furstenberg in New York, but you might need to sort of, you know, find employment in jobs that will lead to that position. So to recap on the answer, number 1, in terms of the types of jobs, it's once you've identified the type of designer, you might want to be a streetwear designer, or you might want to be designing sportswear. So then obviously that's where you're going to focus. You might be interested in the high street and mass market fashion, then you're going to focus there. But you might want to be working for Alexander McQueen. But the reality is that it's very unlikely that you're going to graduate and end up being, you know, the creative or artistic director. You'll always start at the very bottom, you know.
Excellent, thank you. So there is also a question for students who don't have any background in fashion or studied fashion subject, but do have a keen sense of fashion. what are the chances of them being accepted onto the program? I guess it also depends what level they're applying for. If it's undergraduate, obviously students who have just completed high school, I would imagine they're not expected to have background in fashion or studying fashion subjects as such, but obviously they do need to produce a portfolio. They're applying for direct entry of bachelor's degree. Otherwise, they can obviously, I guess, apply for international foundation to begin with.
Yes, I agree with that in parts. I mean, you know, quite a few students have done a sort of fashion and textiles A-level, or textiles A-level, or photography, or have studied art and design, so generic art and design. So, you know, it's not fashion at all specifically, but they understand, you know, the 3D, the sort of 2D, color, etc. So it is useful to have that in place, sort of creative understanding. But if you don't have that in place, then obviously art and design foundation, it's a year, it goes so quickly, and actually it's very, very valuable, you know, in terms of you know, all the other disciplines that are sort of interrelatable. So it's not like a no-no, but it is of benefit to have some sort of creative background.
Excellent, thank you. And students applying for postgraduate level, I would imagine they would be expected to have a background in fashion or
yes,
similar.
Or similar. And it's to their advantage, all similar, you know.
Perfect, thank you. So there is also a question in regards with IELTS waiver. So it depends which country you're applying from, where you studied your qualifications. If you completed perhaps bachelor's in an English-speaking country, that might be accepted as a proof of English. Or if you're applying from certain countries where we do accept higher secondary English modules, we could also look into that. So reach out to our advisors, or if you are an agency, to our relevant business developer, and we will look into your specific case further. Aswati, thank you for the question. So there is also a question in regards with the laptop students would be expected to have, because you mentioned obviously they are learning Photoshop, illustration, and such. Are there any certain requirements at all?
No, I mean, the university, we have the technology and the equipment there. You know, obviously students will buy laptops, you know, to work from home and for their own convenience, and the specs of that change all the time. So it doesn't make any sense for me I don't know the specs myself, but even if I did, it wouldn't make any sense to sort of, you know, say anything now. But in terms of the computers, we have that on campus. We have a Mac suite, PC, you know, we have it all the latest software, all the latest versions. So yes.
Excellent. Yeah, and I know UCA was named Modern University of the Year back in 2019. So I would imagine it's the latest equipment and state-of-the-art facilities available to students. So that's great. So there is a question as to whether UCA offers internship options for, I guess, master's degree students and bachelor's degree students as well.
Well, for the masters, it's quite short. It's like a year. It goes like that, you know. So before you know it, you've graduated again, you know, back in the real world. As I said, with the BA course, fashion degree course at Epsom, in year 2, your second year, the second term, you'll have 6 weeks dedicated to your internship, which is the work placement. And often you have the opportunity to continue over the summer as well, all depending on the relationship you have struck with the company designer that you've been working with.
Excellent, thank you. And speaking of work placement, I can see there was also a question in regard to is being paid. So do students get any sort of salary? But I would imagine because it's a shared placement, it might not be the case. Maybe some of the companies sometimes cover travel expenses or lunch expenses.
Exactly.
But because it's a shared, I guess, placement, it depends on the employer as well.
Exactly.
Right. There is a question on the class sizes. So how many students are normally per class?
Anything from 25 to 30.
25 to 30. And what sort of support is available to students? Are there one-to-one sessions with their tutors at all?
Absolutely. It's the whole spectrum. I mean, there are pastoral tutorials, which are tutorials to do with your well-being and sort of having a talk to your year tutor. There are tutorials, one-to-one to do with your work. The group tutorials, often you might be in a group of 4 other students, which is great because you get to hear what other people are doing. They can feedback, you can feedback. So as well as a tutor, you have the opportunity for your peers to feedback. So that's a tutorial scenario. Then in terms of the workshops, these are often done with the whole cohort, but then there are one-to-one tutorials sometimes in that environment. In terms of the construction, pattern cutting and sewing, yes, there's a workshop delivered to the whole class. There's one-to-one, the tutor will go around and check how everyone's doing. So there's a sort of mixture. There are lectures, there are seminars, the spectrum is quite broad in terms of delivery. But absolutely, students are supported one-to-one, and you actually get to see your tutors. I mean, in some universities, they're so huge, you know that a tutor exists, but you've never actually seen them to identify, So you get to sort of meet the staff and see them frequently.
Excellent, thank you. I think one of the great things about UCA, it's relevantly small when you compare to other universities. So it's that sort of personalized approach and that access to tutors and facilities like studios, etc., which I think is amazing for students. And obviously the location as well, because it's not a huge city, so you don't feel as overwhelmed, but you still have, access to great alumni network, and obviously able to meet people from around the world and make friends, and have access to all different communities.
Yeah, it's a tight-knit community, and it's very sort of supportive, it's creative, but it's a community, so you actually feel a sense of belonging, and absolutely, a lot of students, when they start year 1 of any degrees, their first time away from home is a lot bigger an institution from where they have come from, and they can feel at a loss, really. So to sort of be in a place that there is a sense of community, there is a sort of camaraderie, it's not too big, but it's still accessible to tapping into things much bigger. Yeah, I think, it's a great campus and great university.
Perfect, thank you. So there is a question in regards with deadlines. So we still accept applications from international students. So feel free to reach out to our business developer if you're from educational agency, or our educational advisor if you're applying directly, and we will guide you on your application. We do encourage you to submit your applications as soon as possible, ideally by the end of this month, even if you don't have full package of documents ready just yet, because if you're yet to complete your high school or bachelor's degree, you can send those later, but at least our admissions team will start looking into your application, and obviously providing with your offer letter as well, because spaces, as you can imagine, are limited, so we do encourage you to apply as soon as possible. Okay, so there is a question in regards with remuneration on entry-level jobs per annum, if you have some sort of rough idea.
I can't really be specific. I mean, at the end of the day, it depends on the size of the company, or depends on the level. Even though you do a fashion design degree, you might decide you want to be a pattern cutter, or you might want to be a designer, or you might be more interested in, there's so many different job titles. On doing a fashion design degree, what's amazing about it is that the potential of where you might find yourself in the fashion industry is like second to none. Some people develop a complete love for illustration, and that's what they want to do, or a pattern cutter, or a sample machinist, or a designer, or a PR, or marketing. I mean, it really is. So it's hard to put a figure on what the salary might be,
Definitely.
but absolutely, the longer you're in industry, And the further you climb, then absolutely the salary will increase, you know?
Perfect, thank you. And also just to know, there is also, I can say, question in regards with post-study work visa, what it's called now, graduate route of 2 years for students who complete successfully their bachelor's or master's degree in the UK. Just to know, there is no certain requirement as to how much you have to earn, or whether you even have to have a job offer straight after graduation to be eligible for this type of visa. So you don't need to worry about it too much, I guess. The main thing for you is to graduate successfully, and then obviously to start applying for jobs, or you may even be able to secure great placement and maybe even full-time job whilst you're a student, and then obviously commence it once you have graduated. Because I know some of the students who did placements or internships ended up working full-time for the same companies, which is great. Yeah. So it definitely helps them to enhance their CV and to obviously jump onto career ladder much quicker. Okay, so there is a question if there is a difference between BA Fashion in Epsom and Rochester.
At the end of the day, the difference is whether it's Epsom, Rochester, or Kingston, or any other university, is often the staff, often the alumni that people have graduated, where they find themselves in industry. So these things create the sort of nuances and create the difference. As a Epsom, the fashion course at Epsom, historically, we've done very well at Graduate Fashion Week in terms of the competitions, and we have our own sort of unique selling points as the course at Rochester and other fashion design courses nationally, So for you to ascertain the difference, the thing to do would be to sort of look at the guides, the prospectus about the two courses. And also, as I said at the very, very beginning, I think the second slide, something to really bear in mind is location. We're closer to London, so it is possible to sort of wake up early, have a sort of like, have a plan as to what you want to do. You want to visit a gallery in London, you want to come back and do some more work on campus and then show your work to your tutor. Possible to do it in the day, some of the other campuses, that's not the case, So location is a big factor. But I would suggest to, go on the websites, look at the staff, read their profiles, what they're doing, because they obviously are part and parcel of adding the flavor to the course,
Perfect, thank you. And there is also a question whether students are allowed to do part-time work and whether they can do it in London city itself. Yes, absolutely. So students are eligible to work part-time. For foundations, normally 10 hours, and for bachelor's, master's degrees or graduate diploma, it's 20 hours per week during term time and then full-time during holidays. So students do have opportunities, and they're not restricted to working on campus. I know some of the destinations students go to, they might have to work on campus only, but in the UK, students are not restricted, so they can do part-time work anywhere they like, whether it being in Epsom, in Kent, or in London. So that's absolutely up to them. Obviously, the main priority should be studies, so you do need to devote obviously maximum time to classes, self-studies. But I guess having a part-time work is a great way to make new friends, to develop your communication skills as well, and to earn a bit of pocket money and not to miss home too much, I guess, especially for international students. So definitely recommend to obviously take opportunity of that whilst you are in the UK. Okay, so there is a question in regards with scholarships. So if UCA offers any scholarships for international students, yes, absolutely. So depending where you're coming from, which program you're applying for, there are scholarships available. So feel free to reach out to our educational advisor or your educational agency or business developer, and we will look into your case further. There is a webinar tomorrow specifically on international scholarships for students coming outside of India. So feel free to reach out to us and we'll send you more details on that as well. And we do encourage you to submit your scholarship application as soon as possible as well. Okay, so there is a question as to whether students have to do their internship or placement you mentioned during their bachelor's degrees, or they can do it after graduation.
Well, the year 2, that's part and parcel of the unit. So the expectation is that the work placement happens whilst, and it's to your advantage, actually. It's to your advantage to graduate having had some experience in industry.
Definitely. Couldn't agree more. 100%. Right. So there is also a question on the job fairs at UCA and whether UCA obviously offers any support to students on that. Just to note here, we also had a great webinar with Career Services Department at UCA. So feel free to reach out to us and we will send you a recording if you would like to obviously look into more details on that. But if there are there any sort of job fairs related to fashion and textile where students are potentially able to meet employers from this industry? And
yes, that happens in the 3rd year. We have like a week dedicated to that.
Excellent. So that's great. I think that's definitely amazing opportunity for students to meet their potential employers face to face and to sort of, sell themselves, as we say.
Cool.
And so obviously,
but then actually, to be honest, so yes, the on campus there is, I'm sure it's a week, it might even be longer, dedicated to that. But just to, I don't know if you remember, I mentioned Graduate Fashion Week, and that's the purpose of Graduate Fashion Week. And this is a week that's dedicated to fashion graduates, so across nationally, where is the best of the best in terms of the catwalk, in terms of the showing their portfolios. And this week has been designed for industry to come and see the graduates. So we're part of that.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you. There was one of the questions whether students get to work or assist with the Graduate Fashion Week. So I guess that answers that question. Yes, absolutely.
That's Graduate Fashion Week. In terms of fashion, London Fashion Week, yes, we have many students that sort of touch base with designers and help backstage, dressing models and all sorts of things, So that's something that the students tend to initiate themselves in terms of making contact. So whether it's the website of the designer, sort of sending an email to the info at, just sort of seeing if designers need additional help. So yes, that happens. Twice a year we lose students for a couple of days to assisting backstage, and sort of broadening their horizons and their experience.
Excellent. It must be such an exciting event and such a great opportunity for students to join those events. So great. So there is a question as to whether it would be possible for students to take elective classes from other fashion programs available at EPSAM.
Not on the current course, at the moment, no. But there is the possibility of collaboration as well, let me think. There is a possibility of collaboration. At the Epsom campus, we have fashion management and marketing. We have a course that's recently been renamed, but sort of fashion promotion and imaging, sort of styling, etc. So Epsom actually is going to be the hub of fashion and textiles, So lots of scope for collaboration. In terms of an inbuilt project, there's one that really sort of opens that up as a possibility that I can think of, off the top of my head.
Excellent. And those programs you mentioned, they are part of UCA Business School, right?
They're part of UCA Business School, but the course is having a sort of a, things are sort of changing in a sense. So at some point soon, some courses from Rochester will join the campus at Epsom. I'm talking in 2-3 years time. So I don't know if it's so relevant to this conversation. So I think let's keep it to the course that is running right now. Just keep things.
Absolutely. Excellent, thank you. So there is a question in terms of the basic skills expected from students who are applying for bachelor's. Would you be able to elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, we've talked about in terms of ideally they would have done a course of some description in art and design. So drawing is important, and having a flair for color, sort of shape, just being curious, being curious is very important.
Definitely, I love that word, curious. that's definitely essential. Excellent, thank you. So there is a question from Aswati for masters. How many backlogs do you expect? So it's a little bit different to you're probably referring US system, Aswati. So there is no such requirement. So if students do have completed bachelor's degrees successfully passed, so that would be considered to meet the academic entry requirements. So we can look into that. Obviously, it needs to be related to the subject area, depending on the program obviously students are applying for. So feel free to reach out to us if you have any specific case, and we will look into that further. Perfect. So there is a question as to whether personal statement would be required, and whether there is a possibility for students to change sort of the stream, change the program during their studies, or they have to sort of stick to the same program they've chosen from the beginning. I guess there might be, for international students specifically, I believe there might be also visa implications. So if they do have to change, or they do decide sort of to change the program, they would need to obviously provide the reasons, but also they may need to reapply for a different visa, because their visa is issued for a specific program, so they sort of have to stick to that program from the start. But from the academic perspective, is there such an opportunity for students to switch programs?
Yes, there is. But obviously sooner rather than later. So for example, if you're doing fashion design, you think, oh, actually, I much prefer to do fashion management and marketing, for example. The opportunity is there, but it's to your advantage to sort of ideally try and figure that out sooner rather than later, so you're not missing sort of, important chunks of the delivery, of the other course you're interested in. So the possibility is there in terms of an academic viewpoint.
Perfect, thank you. So again, there is a question in regards with entry requirements based on diploma or degree from back home. So again, feel free to reach out to our business developer if you're an educational agency, or our education advisor if you're a student, and we will look into your case specifically, because again, it depends where you're coming from, what sort of qualification you studied, what grades you achieved, and what obviously program you're applying for. The entry requirements may vary based on those factors. And I think we've covered most of the questions here. Okay, so there is a question in regards with accommodation. So is there accommodation available to students on campus?
Yes, there is. And the further away that you live, you'll prioritize.
Excellent. So I think we had a webinar also on accommodation not long ago. So if you do have any students interested in applying for accommodation, we do encourage to submit application as soon as possible, because as you can imagine, staying on campus accommodation is really popular amongst international students, especially. So they do need to reserve their space at the soonest. So feel free to reach out to us for more details. In case if we missed any of your questions, feel free to reach out to, again, our business developers or educational advisors, or your educational agency if you're applying via an agent, and we will look into your case from there. Thank you very much once again to everyone for joining, and thank you so much, Azima, for such a great presentation. Really insightful and really inspiring. So yeah, everyone have a great day. And if you're a student coming to UCA in September, we can't wait to welcome you on campus, because the campus is already open, and in the UK we are pretty much open. So yeah, it would be great to welcome all students really soon. Have a great day, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye-bye.